with Marcia.
Welcome to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, Season 3. I am so elated that we are going. Welcome back. I'm so excited that we have gotten to the end of Season 3. This year was a little rocky because it didn't go the normal path of planning, putting together, and having the staff around to assist. But what it did do was normalize life. It gave an opportunity for us to address various situations, to discuss overcoming trauma, to the point of bridging a 40-year friendship and the power that comes with that. I'm elated for this season that although it didn't go off as I had planned, because listen, what I've learned is we can have some of the greatest plans, but when the universe get involved, it would take a turn that we may not be prepared for, but that we can endure and that we survive. I'm elated because I'm chosen to do this. I'm chosen to bring people in, to tap into new norms, to go outside. One of my favorite interviews was with curated by Kelly. Kelly is such a phenomenal woman that at 40, she taught us, or 40 plus, she taught us how to love again, loving ourselves first, and then embracing new relationships and eventually marriage and building a whole new life. Normally in society, they say at 40, you're done. We often hear that at 50, you're even doneer. However, Kelly inspired the audience to understand that there's no such thing as done until it's done. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing your voice on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I want to shout out another one of my guests, Tressie Zachary. Started over. I want to shout out another one of my guests, Tree the LPC. This young lady is taking the counseling world by storm. She is utilizing her platform to bridge gaps between cultural inappropriate behavior, building up the LGBTQI plus community, and being that homegirl in therapy. I also want to shout out Dr. B. Doc and I have known each other since we were 18, 19 years old at the University of Tennessee at Martin. He, in my opinion, and is one of our profound voices in politics. I will trust what he shares and how he shares it, and I will put it up against the best. Doc is always in the know. He makes it his business to know about politics and how the known can be repeated if it's not often considered or taken into an account. So thank you, Doc, for your voice. And so many other, I don't want to not say all of my guests were profound because they were. Was able to pull people out of their comfort zone to have conversations about long haul COVID, out of their comfort zone after we talked about how we have to code ourselves in certain corporate environments. And then I ended with speaking with my friends of 40 plus years and developing those relationships. In this episode, I want to remind you that it's okay to normalize new norms. It's okay to grow. It's okay when adversity may show up. It's okay when you lose people, you lose situations, you lose circumstances to bounce back. I often think about how, even in processing the grief of loss of what you've known impacts you. I shared with someone the other day that the grieving process for my parents is a little different because I see their passing as passing the baton to me to continue the journey of why I'm purposed. You have to give yourself permission to understand your own journey. Listen, I see a lot of clients for varying reasons, whether it's mama daddy issues, sibling issues, lack of self esteem, lack of self love, lack of acceptance. And when we begin their journey, we find out that a lot of what's going on is the narrative that they believe, not the narrative that's true. Oftentimes, people will tell us who we are or aren't, what our worth is or what it's not, how to be valued or not valued. But you have to decide for yourself, what is your true narrative? As you know, if you've read my books or followed me for some time, you know that I'm a child of sexual violation. And I could have chosen to hide behind that and not be the person that I am today. But what I chose was to become a voice of empowerment, a voice of endurance, and a voice of resilience that has learned to accept gratitude, grace, and mercy as part of my set of existence, as well as settling in on forgiveness. Forgiveness can be challenging because you have to forgive yourself first for any ill feelings. You have to forgive yourself first for holding on to things longer than they should. And I know that there's this school of thought that I don't need to forgive. When you don't forgive, it only impacts you worse. When you do forgive, you give yourself the opportunity to live. Normalizing living should be a thing. Normalizing new norms should be a thing. And I honestly dislike the word normal because everyone's norm is different. Everyone has their own experiences and everybody responds differently to those experiences. So I want to drop a few nuggets on this last episode of season 3 as I began planning season 4. The first nugget: learn to love and accept you, all of you. Learn to accept you and love you, all of you. When you learn to accept who you are, all of who you are, you no longer have to depend on others seeing you or accepting you. You no longer have to wait for someone else to value you. We all have a past. We all have regrets. We all have forgiveness, grace, and mercy. So, your first nugget is learn to accept and love all of you. Number 2, your joy and happiness is an internal job. That's right. Your joy and happiness is an internal job. While we would love for other people to bring us joy or bring us happiness, it's not their job. That's our job. It's our job to understand what joy and happiness is in our life, what that looks like, how that's preserved in our life. It's nobody else's job. Number 3, it is okay to let go and move on. It is okay to let go and move on. A lot of people struggle with letting go and moving on because of fear of abandonment and rejection, those fears of lack of acceptance. But the truth is, you have to ask yourself, what am I actually holding on to? What is it that I feel like this relationship is filling for me, but it's actually hurting me? What am I holding on to? I hear clients who struggle with holding on to the thought that they formed about a relationship. For example, having a thought that mothers and daughters are always going to get along and they're going to be, holding each other's hand and skipping down the road, and that's not your experience. Holding on to the thought of a former mate ever coming back, or holding on to the thought of people that you thought were friends that ended up showing up not as friends. You want to ask yourself, Why am I holding on to this situation? And how is this situation serving me? How is it helping me? How is it building me? How is it bridging me? If your how doesn't align with the goal that you have, it's time to let go. I've had someone ask the question, how do you let it go if it's your mom? You're letting go the characteristic that doesn't serve you. What exactly does that mean? That means that the characteristic that no longer serves me, I'm letting go. It's attached to the person that I don't want to let go. I'm going to love that person. I'm going to be there for that person if there is a major need, but I'm letting that person go because I've learned to value me. Is it hard? Absolutely. Do you feel guilty? Absolutely. Do you deserve the peace? Absolutely. I would encourage anyone that is going through a process of letting go to identify what your true needs are from the individual or individuals that you're having to let go. Try that one more time to have a real honest conversation, not filled with emotions, but filled with facts and truth. And if that conversation doesn't connect to a change, unfortunately, it's time to let go. Number 4, never quit, never give up. Life is going to challenge us in so many different facets. You have to decide that regardless of the challenge, your life is worthy to never quit and never give up. Will you have to change paths? Absolutely. Will you have to view things from a different perspective? Absolutely. Will you have to plot a change in unknown territories? Probably so. But never quit and never give up. Your 5th nugget is always ask for wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. And then ask for understanding. That is the part of the why question. If you followed me for a while or listened to anything that I've produced or books that I've written or anything of that nature, I'm going to encourage you to consider always asking the why question. Before you jump to any conclusions about someone's behavior or their perspective, take a moment and ask why. Why is their response bothersome to me? Why did they respond that way? And have I asked them? Or am I assuming? Why am I not letting it go? When you ask for wisdom and you gain understanding, it will give you a different perspective on where your life is and how you're doing it. 6, it's okay to start over. It's okay to start over. As I go through life, I realize that a lot of reasons why people are stuck is because they're more afraid of the success of starting over than the success of failure. Starting over does not mean that you failed. Starting over simply means that you've gotten to a point or an intersection in your life where things that was are no longer. Things that you thought you desired have changed. Your expectations have differences from when you started out at 20, maybe. Your standards have changed. Your vision has grown. Remember, your territory has been enlarged. And sometimes when our territory is enlarged, where we were once thinking, we can't afford to think that way anymore. So it's okay to start over. Number 7, show yourself grace. None of us are perfect. I know the internet is beating up Gen Xers for their parenting, for what seems to be the perception that we don't necessarily care, and all of those kind of things. Listen, show yourself some grace. All of us are living day by day by taking chances on what we believe is the right thing to do at a time. Am I saying that we always get it right? Absolutely not. How do we even know how to always get it right? I don't use the word perfect from the perspective of everything has to align just right, it has to be in absolute order. I use the word perfect as its original context and meaning, which is to complete. When I think about parenting, when I think about my friend relationships, my family relationships, and all those different things, I think about how I show up complete for me. Because in my complete, in my healing, in my space, I give room for relationships. I give room for mistakes, and I give room for grace. Show yourself the same grace that you're showing to everyone else because you deserve it. Number 8, that magical number of new beginnings. Your nugget is this: loving you is never wrong. Making you a priority is never wrong. Seeing you, being you, and owning you is never wrong. Always show up as your best self in you first. Others attach themselves to it. Always honor the truth inside of you. Even if no one else is going to stand with you in your truth, because your truth may break down strongholds. Your truth may shine light on things that are uncomfortable, but always show up in your truth. Always love all of you. Always be all of you. Always desire the absolute best for you. It's important for me to share this message in giving of hope that starting over, that self-love, that forgiveness, that grace, that wisdom, that understanding, that knowledge all belongs to you. You may not always have the right cheerleaders in space to really honor everything about you, and it's okay, because as long as you have a voice, a heart, an eye, and an ear, and a mouth, you can be your greatest cheerleader. You owe you to be your absolute best, and normalizing whatever that new norm is in your life is perfect, because you get the opportunity to be who you have always been created to be. You don't have to be stuck in the past. And anyone that always reminds you of who you were in the past, here's a hint: tell them to go to hell. The new book is on its way. I really want to encourage you to understand that you are your greatest asset. You can no longer afford to be a liability in your life. You have to give yourself permission to move forward in everything that you've been purposed to do. Why? Because you deserve it. I want to take this time to thank all of my family and friends, co-workers, followers, and everyone else that lives I don't know personally. Thank you for allowing me to be me. Thank you for allowing me, especially to my clients, thank you for allowing me to be who I always am and always intended to be. It's my true self. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be who I am and how I've been purposed in this life. You take good care. I'll see you in season 4 in 2025. I do want to share a couple of things that are coming up. In November, the book, Tell the Past to Go to Hell, will become available. We're running to get it finished. Also, I want to help start getting your mind right for Empowerment 2025 next year. We're going to do a new thing, so stay on record. If you are not a subscriber on marciablaine.com, you really are missing out on some great weekly nuggets that are being dropped in your email. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not asking for finances or anything like that. It's just me getting a word to you. Also, you'll be the first to know when events are planned and things are going on. All right. Secondly, I'm going to remind you to always find you a therapist. Always find that external voice outside of your nuclear circle or nucleus circle to talk with, so that you can have a balanced truth to everything that's going on in your life. Thirdly, honor yourself in the relationships that you have, but also recognize if they're time to let go. Keep loving you. Thank you so much for supporting Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, and we'll see you in season 4. Take good care.